Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Kushal Choksi. Kushal is a 9/11 survivor and author of the book On a Wing and a Prayer. And today we are going to be talking about using the life-altering benefits of meditation and mindfulness to heal after tragedy. And I am really going to enjoy talking to Kushal about his experience in 9/11 and his book. So we're going to go deep. And of course, we're going to go even deeper and more into mindfulness and meditation. So it's going to be, listen, stick around. This is going to be a powerful interview. Welcome, Kushal.
Thank you, Myrna. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. All right. You see how I set them up? All right. Well, let me give you guys a little bit more information about Kushal. Kushal's thriving career as an analyst at Goldman Sachs was forever changed on September 11, 2001, as he made a split-second decision to abandon his office and coworkers who refused to leave the World Trade Center. Managing to narrowly escape, he witnessed the magnitude of death and destruction up close and was plunged into a lengthy depression where he found himself believing life was meaningless. His search for a renewed purpose began with a reluctant trip to a breathwork workshop and eventually turned into a decades-long journey of spiritual discovery, mind-blowing metaphysical experiences, and a fierce devotion to the life-altering benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Today, Kushal and his wife run Elements Truffles, a New York-based I know I was going to mess this one up, artisanal chocolate company built on values of Ayurveda, sustainability, giving back, and ethical trade. Kushal is a trainer of personal development, meditation, wellness, and leadership programs for the Art of Living Foundation. He has taught series of breathwork and meditation to thousands across the U.S., Europe, and Asia. And he serves on the U.S. board of the International Association of Human Values, which is IAHV. Wow. Listen, you have seen that up close. You've tangled with the devil, you know what I mean? And you've come out on the other side. So first off, can you tell us about that day that changed your life, 9/11, 2001, and how that tragedy made you more receptive to a new spiritual path of mindfulness and meditation?
Great question, Myrna. I think, as I recall, the day started as any other day where I was on my way to work. And as I was coming out of the subway stop in the bowels of the World Trade Center, that's when I was in the North Tower, that's when the first plane hit the building. And of course, a pandemonium broke around me, and I froze in that moment. I didn't know how to process all that. People were just running around, saying things that they understood or they perceived. Someone was saying the bomb has gone off. Nobody really knew. Only one thing was evident was there was a fear. There was a palpable fear in the atmosphere. That's all I very clearly remember. And against the advice of a security person who was asking everyone to stay within because obviously it was unsafe to be outside, I stepped out. And I was looking at the building, trying to process what had just happened. Another plane just came through the corner of my left eye and pierced the South Tower. Of course, in that moment, it became clear that this was a more deliberate action. And what followed after that, people jumping in front of me just to end it willfully, or the first responders going in, almost walking into their own, end. It was all kind of very unexpected and very difficult to process, let alone imagine. It felt like a a scene from an apocalypse movie, that you can almost imagine, but you never think you would be part of it. You would be living it. And as I was running away from it, the second tower just collapsed, and by stroke of luck, I just jumped on a ferry on the other end of the island that was leaving Manhattan. And I ended up being the last person on the last ferry that left the island that day.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
in that moment, I realized that, Myrna had turned into a statistic, that I was now a survivor.
Yeah.
And, what that day kind of prepared for me, as how you laid out earlier, is kind of a foundation for what was to come on my remaining, part of the journey. On part of me was feeling very grateful, very happy that I had made it out alive, and I survived these horrific attacks. So there was an enthusiasm to finish the unfinished business. I used to work on Wall Street, so I was like, oh yes, now that American dream that I had come to pursue as an immigrant, I have to go after it with even more energy. But then part of me was thinking, but what's the point of all this? So there was an interesting push and pull that created a kind of a feeling of confusion, a feeling of void in my head. And I didn't know really how to get out of it. I was just distracting myself by changing jobs, by traveling around the world, by doing this, by pursuing that. But it was not that. And for the first time, I felt that, I questioned the status quo. The first time I felt like there had to be more to life than what just met the eye. Otherwise, that being entrenched in that intense Wall Street culture was so effortless. It was just you were in it, and then the force of the current was so strong that I had even stopped asking what I was doing or why I was doing what I was doing. And an event like this was a wake-up call. It was something that shook me up from my reverie and made me ask a bigger question, which I had never imagined that I could, or I was answerable to myself. And yeah, so this was a life-changing event. And I talk to many people, and I say maybe 9/11 was an event for me, but I feel everyone had or has had their own 9/11 in their lives. Whether it was that day 20 years ago, or maybe a pandemic like what we've just been through.
Yes. Yes.
It has
Yes.
made us question our
Yeah.
own purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. We all can walk away from something, yeah, we can all walk away from something. Okay, so so you weren't at work yet when it happened. You were just coming out of the subway. Were you, sometimes people say, obviously it wasn't your time, but a lot of times how that shows up is maybe you were, for instance, we had a similar situation happen here in Florida. Well, it wasn't really similar, but the building collapsed, right?
In Miami, yes.
Right, I saw that on Surfside, right?
Yes.
And one of the guys that was spared, that was living in the property, said that he went to his girlfriend's house, and he went for a swim, and she decided that he shouldn't go home with the wet clothes, that he should put that she should put the clothes in the dryer, and that saved his life because he didn't go home. So did anything like that happen to you in that day? Were you running late for work? Were you supposed to be at work on time, or this was just normal? Do we have any situations there? No?
No, but I do have a situation where there was this person, the security person, was asking us to go back in the building because, if you stepped outside, just on the other side of that glass door, it was raining cement chips, that insulation from the walls, that glass splinters, embers from the sky. It was like really unsafe. And so he was asking people to stay within, out of goodwill. He was just, he didn't know any better. And so, but in that moment, I decided to step out. I had a voice from behind just tap on my shoulder and say, just go. And so, yeah, that was my, throw your clothes in the dryer moment, where I just decided to disobey the security person.
The building collapsed for the people that were in it. Is that what happened?
I have no idea or to what happened to people inside. I hope, because there was a matter of about 20-25 minutes between I stepped out and the building collapsed. So maybe there was, I hope in that meantime people kind of saw that there was a danger and they stepped out. I don't know. I have no way to.
But I see where we're going with that. Yes, like if you had stayed in, regardless, right? Wow. So that is your. So yeah. So when we think about that kind of event, the way that you went first is depression. What was meaningless, and I think what I heard you say earlier is that when you felt that life was meaningless, you felt that your job as an analyst in Goldman Sachs and that kind of stuff was meaningless, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. So I think we paint that feeling with a broad brush and we say it was depression. I think usually depression follows with the lack of interest, right, in anything around us. But for me, it was exactly the opposite. I was feeling so grateful that I have a second lease on life, and I have to go after whatever was unfinished with even more gusto. So I had tremendous force of life in me. Okay. It's just that I began questioning the purpose of it. That what's really the point of it? I mean, I was doing well in my career. I got married to my soulmate. So I was in the eyes of the world, I was thriving. Okay. So I wouldn't really call it depression, but it was just, sometimes you are on autopilot, right? You are on a conveyor belt and you were just going with the force of life. And then something hits you with a club in your head and said, makes you question, is this conveyor belt right for you?
Right.
So that was the first time I questioned the purpose.
Okay. All right. So, and then, going through the bio here, and then, you found your purpose by going to a workshop in Breathwork. And, that started your decades-long journey into spiritual discovery. So, why do you feel that proper breathing was so important to healing trauma? I don't know if you felt that you were traumatized from that, but if we don't want to use the word trauma, why do you think that breath work is so important to healing, our minds then?
I have to preface that in spirit of being very open and honest, that I did not go to that thing, that event, looking for a purpose. I was almost pushed into it against all my reluctance. I was not looking for it. In fact, I was averse to it, Myrna. I thought that meditation or breath work was something you do when you're done with life and you retire, and when you have nothing else to do. That's when you pursue all these alternative modalities, that whatever you may call them.
Okay.
Because lest they take the edge off of you, what if they make you so calm that you give up everything? I had a very different understanding of what meditation was. I thought meditation was anti-progress, that it was anti-passion.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to go. I really was enjoying what I was doing, and so I didn't want to go and become a monk. I didn't want that. So reluctantly, I went there, and the first time, so there was this spiritual master, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, who was traveling. He had come to New York, and against all my reluctance and aversion to.
He pushed you. Was it your wife?
Yes, yes, I was with my wife.
That's usually what wives do. Okay.
You're right. You picked it. She was the one who said, "Let's go." What's the worst that can happen? Let's just check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so the first time I meditated there with this teacher, this spiritual master, and it was I'd read out all about this keeping your mind in the present moment, or not think of past or future, or present moment is the present, live in the moment. It was a fantastic, very well read intellectual concepts lodged firmly in my head. But the first time I meditated, Myrna, it became a tangible experience, that
Mm-hmm.
what it is to be in the moment, or what it is to have a mind without any turbulence, a mind without any thoughts. And that was the first time I experienced that. And I felt,
People to do that right away, because most people take some time to get there.
yes, I personally had tried it so many times before, and it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Because I want to come to that, why that was the case. This time I effortlessly got there, and I'm like, oh wow, this is good. But then again, that Wall Street trained mind doesn't want to take anything on its face value, right? So it said, wait, where's the hidden muffin here? Did I fall asleep? Was this a placebo? What's going on here? So then I started looking for scientific validation. That left brain person that I was, I started looking for all the scientific underpinnings of that practice or that meditation that I experienced. And when I realized that it was real deal, that there were peer-reviewed journals that talked about exactly what happened in our system, that gave you that sense of peace and calm, then I was convinced that, okay, no, perhaps this is something that I want to explore deeper and see what lies on the other side of it.
Okay. Yes. That's awesome. Now you're talking about left brain. I was doing an exercise the other day because, I meditate every day myself. But I was doing an exercise the other day, and they were saying that in order to switch yourself from a left brain to a right brain person, you gotta start visualizing and doing things like that, and that means that you're accessing your right brain. So that was kind of good for me to understand the difference between the left brain and right brain. I mean, my introduction to that was people that are logical and people that are emotional, but it's deeper than that. So that's pretty good that you mentioned that. As a left-brained person, you've got to have the logical, and then so now you're probably almost purely right brain, right?
I think the balance of both is important. I
Okay.
think left brain is logic, um, analysis, intensity. Right brain is more flow state, calm, music, all of that emotions. So I think a balance of both, a judicious balance of both, is very important. Either end of the spectrum, you somewhat lead an unbalanced life. And you want to, I think you want to be walking that razor's edge, which balances both. And to my experience, that gives the most joy in whatever you do.
In the middle, right? Okay. So, all right. So, you were telling us how you got there to the breathing thing and how it changed you. Why do you think that breathing? Because I've actually heard that before. Why do you think the proper breathing heals your trauma? Is it to do with being in the present moment and getting rid of all the thoughts? Is that the doorway?
There's a deeper scientific kind of effect that's happening on our nervous system. Myrna, any life experience that you go through, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, it leaves a little lesion or a scuff mark on your nervous system. Right? It leaves like an impression in our system somewhere. Let me give you an example of something so simple as wanting to have a coffee in the morning. Right? You like your cup of coffee. First day, somebody offers you a cup of coffee in the morning. Oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Next day, when you look at coffee, you remember the experience you've had before. and you say, oh no, I want that. Third day, 8 a.m., you're going to go and switch on that coffee machine. And next day, if you don't have coffee in your apartment, that's going to make you feel miserable. Right? So something as innocent as a coffee has created a pattern or a conditioning of our mind, in our system.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Some of the traumatic events or some of the events of loss or anything have a very similar effect. Mm-hmm. That being in that or seeing something similar that evokes that emotion keeps taking you back to that emotion. You know, for the longest time, every time I would remove my shoes at the airport, it would take me back to the morning of 9/11.
Really?
You know, that was an impression that thing had created in my mind, and now any such related events were taking me back to past, not letting me be in the more present. Although it had nothing to do with 9/11. I was going on a vacation, right? But they asked me to remove my shoes.
That's what I was thinking, if you took off your shoes that day, but now I'm thinking it's the airplane. It's probably it, right?
Yeah, and that too, right? So
right. Mm-hmm.
But what this, by the way, the practice that I learned, this breathwork technique, is called sky breath meditation. Mm-hmm. And what this sky breath meditation does is harnessing the rhythm of your own breath. Mm-hmm. It scrubs your nervous system of these debilitating impressions. These impressions that hold you back, the impressions that don't allow you to be more present, the impressions that take you back into those moments that you don't want to go back to.
Right.
You know, whether, again, anything, whether it is of something that where you feel, okay, you lost a job, and the next time you go through that same street, it takes you back to that right. So you get it. So all these impressions make us, they tie us to our past. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I experienced with this sky breath is, without effort, you said a very beautiful thing earlier that I want to come to it. You said you require visualization, right? To go back to transcend from left brain to right brain. Mm-hmm. All these different practices or all these different things that I had tried before required some effort. Visualization is an effort.
Yes.
Not thinking of something or resisting thoughts is an effort. Mm-hmm. And as you know, who's focused so much on transforming the mind, you can't control your mind from the level of your own mind. Right? If I ask you to close your eyes and say, Myrna,
tell it not to do something, that's exactly what it does.
Exactly. You got it. So it's like that's the nature of the mind. You cannot control it with your mind.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And mind doesn't listen to effort. Your body listens to effort. If you want to build muscles, you have to put effort. But mind is complete effortlessness. So what the sky breath did was, without effort, it scrubbed these impressions and effortlessly took my mind to a place which was meditation. I did not have to put an effort to meditate. In the past, I tried so hard to meditate. Yeah. But the minute I close my eyes, all the to-do lists,
come in, right?
all the thoughts, all the profound ideas about what I wanted to have for dinner, all these trivial things would flood my awareness to the point that I cannot meditate.
Right.
But now with this sky breath meditation, just through that simple act of breath work, breathing, it effortlessly took me there and like dropped me there. And that was meditation.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Now, you also talked about Ayurveda. Is Ayurveda part of breathwork or the meditation, or what exactly is that?
Ayurveda is, well, if you just break down the name, Ayu is life and Veda is science. So Ayurveda is just a science of life. It's also colloquially known as the, sister science to yoga. See how yoga focuses on body and mind and breath. Ayurveda focuses on nutrition, what you put inside your system. So
Okay.
it focuses on achieving harmony, balance through your food. It says your food is your medicine. You know,
Okay.
unlike a lot of these trends these days, keto or
Right.
or or paleo, where you do certain things and you definitely don't do certain things.
Right.
They are not something you can adapt forever. And that's why they are trends. That's why it's a phase
Mhm.
of your life. And after a point you say, okay, now I want to go back to my normal life. I've had it enough, right? Whereas
Well,
I
I don't know why I've not actually, investigated that, because I follow a lot of, Indian gurus, not even gurus. I love Deepak Chopra, and I started following Satguru, and both of them talk about Ayurveda, and I know it has some kind of connection to yoga, but I never heard the food or nutrition part of it. So that's good. So okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so nutrition is a part of it. Ayurveda is very deep. Ayurveda is very deep,
Mhm.
and it has to do with the planets. It has to do with how with the seasons. It has to do with the time of the day, but it's all about bringing that balance, bringing that harmony in your system through eating right at the right time in the right
Mm.
amount.
Mm.
So I realized that as I went deeper into my practice of meditation, my nutrition automatically started aligning with what Ayurveda recommended.
Oh, okay.
And it was very beautiful. It didn't say, do this, don't do this. It was never about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute someone says, don't do this, I want to do that. So I'm
Yeah.
that kind of person. So that's why Ayurveda resonated with me, because it said, do everything. Just do it in the right amount at the right time. Of course, if you are severely diabetic, then you have certain ways to. If you have certain
Right.
certain physical ailments or conditions, then there are certain things you definitely don't do. But
Okay.
for more or less for the normal life, um, it doesn't have any restrictions about this or that, and that was very
Do you
very
talk about it
interesting.
in your book? Do you talk about it in your book?
I don't talk about it much in my book. My book is more about how I stumbled upon this breathwork, the art and science of breathwork, and how I kept going through it as a skeptic, left brain person, questioning it, yet
Right.
having irrefutable experiences on every step that I could not even it. So
Well,
it's
I've got
more
to
about
maybe I'll
that.
pick
But
up a book with Ayurveda then, because you made it sound very interesting. So I'll definitely go pick up a book on that. All right, so that's good. So let's go a little deeper now into meditation and mindfulness, and how does that allow you to stay resilient in the face of challenges?
So I want to make a slight distinction here between mindfulness and meditation,
Okay.
right? Because oftentimes they they are used interchangeably,
Okay.
and they have very similar roots, but somewhere they branch out a little bit.
Okay.
And mindfulness is again about, as it says, being aware, being mindful of what to do, what not to do, following certain rules, not following certain rules. If you look at it scientifically, mindfulness is a frontal cortex activity in your brain.
Mm. Okay.
And the research shows those people who practice mindfulness, their frontal cortex is more developed.
Okay.
So it is a thinking side of the brain.
Okay.
Mindfulness also has a con, which is that it keeps you at the level of, at the surface level. Because remember, we talk about the mind, when it comes to effort, mind is pulls back a little. So mindfulness keeps you at the level of surface, but whereas the meditation goes beyond mindfulness,
Mm.
where the effort
You
drops.
actually turn off your
So
mind, right?
meditation, you turn off your mind again without effort. Turning off
Right.
also requires effort. So meditation is not an act of doing anything, but it's just being.
Being. Yes.
And when you are in that state, you connect with yourself, and meditation happens. My teacher, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, says you don't do meditation. Meditation happens to you. Meditation just happens when you're ready, when you are receptive to it. You're in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and you just be, and you use breath. You use the breath as a tool to transcend. Use a
Right.
breath. Otherwise, we talked about the thoughts will not let you go there.
Right.
But you use a tool like sky breath or some breath work technique that lets you go there. And when that happens, you connect with yourself. And the more you are in touch with yourself, the more resilient you automatically become. The more aware you are at every moment, the more what is important and what is not becomes very clear. So you may have these memories, like, for example, if you, like how you asked me earlier, take us to that day. I can close my eyes and I can see every little detail in crystal clarity. But does it have the same emotional garbage or that negative charge that it used to have? No. So it does make you, the breath work and combination of that with meditation definitely makes you very resilient, definitely gives you that clarity. And it's like children, right? Children are very resilient. And now you can say, oh yeah, because they haven't seen life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you ask a child whether you want a piece of candy or piece of mind, they definitely go for a piece of candy, right? Because they have not experienced that turbulence.
Right.
And scientifically, that turbulence is all those impressions, those scuff marks on the nervous system. But when the breath work cleans them up, it takes you back to that childlike state of nervous system, clean and strong.
Yeah. As you were talking, I remember, that exactly what for me, because I meditate every day, what I have found is that what you said, it's it clears away your reaction to stuff. You know what I mean? Like I know people that the smallest thing sets them off because they're never in that space of peace and calm and whatever, and things trigger them. For me, it helps me to not respond and react as quickly. And, if you're saying it's clearing in the surface. But one of the other things I noticed is that, you can be talking to someone that is recalling something that happened 20 years ago, and they're crying. And I know that I'm in this space to know that they have not dealt with that. Because if they had dealt with it, they wouldn't have emotion and they wouldn't cry. And that's basically what you've just said and explained. So, every day is a learning experience. And sometimes you get some information and you don't have all of it, but So I knew that if somebody is still responding by crying or something, that they haven't dealt with that. But now you've told me that it's because it's a scuff mark on their nervous system and they're actually remembering it. So breathing and meditation allows you to somehow, erase that and find that peace and calm. Now, does it also, because you're an expert, so I'm going to ask you this. So when you stay still, right, and you go inside, it also allows you to connect to God, right? How does that help with the nervous system and the scuff marks?
So yeah, I mean, whether you call it God, whether you call it consciousness, whether you call it self, it's all the same thing. It's that, something that connects you and me, right? Something that's common between you and me. And that action of going deeper, connecting with the self, that is meditation.
Okay.
When you're in touch with that self, where you just a dip into it.
You're actually using higher self. I thought you meant, our bodies here, but when you're saying self, you're saying higher self, which is also God and consciousness and all that. And that's how you connect. Okay, got you.
So there are Myrna, there are 7 layers to who we are. We are not just this physical body, right? Of course, we are this body. That's how we perceive and enjoy the world. But that's not about it. Sorry, my computer is dying.
Okay.
So there are 7 layers to who we are, right? The grossest layer is this body. Subtler than the body is our breath. Beyond the breath is our mind. Now, mind, I don't mean the brain, but that faculty that analyzes, that judges, that destroys and recreates. Beyond the mind is intellect, the faculty that makes that discriminates, that perhaps is going in your mind right now as you're listening to it. Is that right? Maybe that's right. No, yes, no, right? That intellect.
Right.
And intellect makes those decisions based on what? Its past experiences, which are stored in our memory. Beyond the memory is our sense of identity, or also something that we know as ego. And past that layer of ego is the self, who we really are. So all the life that's happening.
That's his teaching.
Yeah. So all the life that happens to us is happening on these 6 layers of our existence: body, breath, mind, intellect, memory, and ego. All the impressions are collected somewhere along these 6 layers. And meditation is going past these 6 layers to yourself, past these 6 layers. And it's very difficult to go there without a technique. It's very difficult to go past your own body. Sometimes you sit and you just sleep off. Sometimes you just sit and you have some aches and pains. Sometimes you sit and you have crazy thoughts. Sometimes you sit and you have doubts of, why am I wasting this when I could be watching Netflix? Right? So all our entire being revolves around these 6 layers, unless we have a technique to pole vault past the 6 layers into the self.
Beautiful. And that technique is what you're talking about, the breath work?
That's a sky breath meditation technique.
Okay. Sky breath. Okay. So I'll make a note of that. And you talk about that in your book?
Yes, I do talk about it at length, of why it works and how it works.
And the technique.
And the technique itself, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm definitely going to get your book.
I would love to facilitate sky breath. It's something I do as my way of giving back. I volunteer my time, facilitate sky breath meditation, and I teach it. It's just I volunteer that. As a way of paying forward. So I would love to do it with you and or your audience. It would be an honor.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. You got to sit and be quiet and they have to do it on their own. But they get your book and then they will get the technique. So what you said is really good, because people talk about meditation. Okay, let me tell you so mindfulness. I practice mindfulness because it's a big word now, and most of the time we're not mindful. We're running on autopilot. We're not aware of our breath. We're being breathed. We don't know what we're doing. So I practice mindfulness by they're saying, okay, feel when I do mindfulness meditation, feel where your body touches the surface that you're sitting on. When I'm walking and I do mindfulness, I'm seeing my feet, or being aware of my feet that are just walking. So I practice mindfulness. And also with the meditation you're talking about, I sit. They're saying that now I sit on my meditation cushion. I heard that's the thing. I get my meditation cushion, I sit, and my body relaxes. So my meditation is just about relaxing the body. Nobody told me that you have to have a technique to get all the way to yourself, the higher self, and all that. I heard Deepak talk about mind, body, intellect, and everybody talks about the ego. So you have just given me some more information that I had, and I've been in this space for a long time. So thank you for that information. So I'm not really going to get your book because I want the technique, because I just sit and relax and whatever.
And no,
Right?
you're absolutely right, because every technique has some benefit, whether it serves your body, whether it serves your mind, whether it serves your intellect or memory. It brings some relaxation,
Mhm.
but you want something beyond just dry relaxation technique. You can even go to a spa and relax, but you want a technique that nourishes all the different layers of yourself. We there's this whole thing about these dimensions, right? Like I say, like the outer dimension and the inner dimension. See, most
Mhm.
of the things we do in our lives is spent in nurturing the outer dimension, whether it's our bank balance, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our physical body, whether it's the home we live in. It's all the outer dimension.
Mhm.
But the real peace or real sense of well-being comes from what's inside the inner dimension.
Mhm.
And most of the techniques that I tried before I came to Sky Breath, I've tried a lot of modalities, Myrna. I've tried so many different techniques.
Mhm.
Most of them stopped at the outer dimension, you know. And it was after all that different trying different things, I found this technique which kind of cut through all these different layers and take you through the to the self. And that was my experience, and that I talk about in the book. The first time I tried Sky Breath, initially there's some fidgeting in the body, some sensations in the body, and then I pay my attention to the breath, then all these thoughts come out, all these random memories come from nowhere. It's only later that I realized that the breath work, the Sky Breath, was guiding me through. It was cutting through all these different layers.
Amazing. Right, right.
And
Mm-hmm.
at one point you go and then poof, you slip into that nothingness, where
Wow.
you there is no there's nothing there. There's You feel so light. You feel it's very difficult to experience explain that experience, but it's just very experiential.
And I understand what you're talking about. Yes, I've never been there, but I know because I talk to people that have been there, nothingness and right. And time flies. You can be sitting for 3 hours and you take, in fact, Sadhguru's book, he talked that he would be sitting at the table and 7 hours later he figured out, he's still there kind of thing. you know, so I understand that. It's awesome. All right. It's like this has been a brilliant, conversation. I love every part of it. So yeah, so your book is called On a Wing and a Prayer. So you just told us basically, I think what's in the book. I don't know if you want to add anything more. And you can just tell our listeners and those watching on TV where they can get your book. Tell us about your website. Tell us about your handle on social media so that they can connect with you and how. I'm not sure if I'm sure that you're teaching Skybreath somewhere. So how they can actually connect with you to get that.
Sure. The book is available on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. You can get it from my website. The links are on my website. It's my first name and last name, kushalchoksi.com. My social handle that I'm most active on right now is on Instagram. And my handle is Choksi, my last name, followed by numbers 108. So it's at Choksi108. Um, and yeah, I facilitate Sky Breath. It's the details of which can also be found on my website. And through the foundation, the Art of Living Foundation, where I volunteer my time. So you could go to artofliving.org and look up Sky Breath meditation. There are hundreds of volunteer teachers like me who facilitate these workshops in different cities, and now everything is online, so it doesn't matter where you are.
Right, right, right. Okay, that is awesome. My regular listeners know that I would have links to your website and your Instagram handle. I will link out to both the Art of Living and your personal website. And of course, there'll be a transcript of our conversation so that anybody that's missed anything can go by the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. I'm definitely going to be following you and on Instagram as well. So when the episode is ready, I will definitely tag you on that. So yes, and I will definitely get your book. I definitely want to improve my connection to self. You know, I doubt that I've been there really, but because I haven't gone through those 6 layers.
I think I mean, talking with you, I have a feeling, you really know your stuff. I mean, you're so unassuming in that sense. But yes, I would love to hear your thoughts once you get the chance to read the book.
Definitely, we'll do. So thank you, Kushal. Like I said, it's been wonderful. You know, God saved you from the Twin Towers so that you can do this work. You know, this is your purpose. And we all breathe, but a lot of us don't know how to do it.
And we do it wrong 25,000 times a day.
Yeah, we do. I know that. So, I mean, I'm conscious of it and I try, but I'm still obviously doing it wrong. But, you know, I'm doing it a little better than most. You know, because, you know, right. Yeah. So, but anyway, so listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. Michelle, it's been a pleasure. Any last words that you want to leave for our listeners?
I think it's been a phenomenal honor and pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you for having me. I also want to say, if you want to have a little taste of this Sky Breath workshop, you go to Art of Living website, and they also have, I believe, an hour-long introductory sessions. They're free sessions that you can dial in through a Zoom call or something from your computer. So I recommend all of you to try that and see whether it's for you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Why not? You have nothing to lose.
Yes. Only to gain.
Only to gain. All right, guys. Well, listen. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.